here in Colchester, Ontario at C.R.E.W Winery. It is a gorgeous day, the sun is shining, perfect day for some wine tasting and to bring you along at our adventures in wine. So we're here at C.R.E.W with the winemaker, Ryan. And Ryan, I've got some questions for you that I'm sure you can help us with. So first question, help me understand, how did you get to be a winemaker?
Started my winemaking career working at Folio in Harrow for about just under 12 years, and I just wanted a little something more, so I ended up enrolling in Niagara College's winemaking and viticulture program. Okay. It's about a 20-month course. So I moved my family up to Niagara and studied. While I was up there, I worked at Henry Pelham, just in the cellars, just trying to keep in the practice of working with the wine still. And then there was a job opportunity here at C.R.E.W for assistant winemaker, and being from the area, it just seemed like it was too good of an option to pass up.
That's amazing.
So I finished up my schooling while working here as well, commuting back and forth to Niagara. Wow. And I've been here now just over 4 years, and as the winemaker for the past 3 years.
Excellent.
The main focus of winemaking should always be quality and sanitation. It is of paramount importance that things remain sanitized. If some stray yeast cell gets into something, or anything for that matter, wine is a living, breathing thing. It's kind of weird to think of it that way, but it's ever evolving, right? So if it's not kept in a nice, clean state, or whatever the state of that winemaker's preference is for that particular wine, things can go sideways quick. So for me, it's maintaining quality. It's checking my wines, every 2 weeks at least, gassing my tanks to make sure that that headspace is filled with an inert gas. That way it's not oxidizing too fast. Yep. Topping barrels once a month, and just doing just analyzing everything and just making sure things are in a sanitized state.
So in working here, I know you're going to say that you like all the wines, but if you had to pick one or two that kind of like have your heart, that you really love, that you feel like people need to try, which wines would you say?
If I had to pick two wines, let's say, the first one I'm going to say is our Red Sky at Night Rosé. It's a 100% Merlot based from our estate. Everything is picked by the machines and then let to sit on the skins for 24 hours. That extracts a lot of the color, but not the tannins. So you get a really deep, perplexing color of a rosé. A lot of people think it is a red wine. Yeah. It's most definitely a rosé wine, just a really dark tinge wine. It's a fun wine to make, that's all. Okay. The second one I would have to say is our Fumé Blanc, which is a barrel fermented Sauvignon Blanc. I was given a challenge by a critic in Niagara to come up with a Sauvignon Blanc put in barrel. The first iteration of it turned out really well, but this one that we just released last week, the 2020 Fumé Blanc, is outstanding. It's 95% of the vision of what I wanted to accomplish with that wine. And so it's just a small lot, just really fun and intricate to make.
We kind of chatted about this before, but now I want to get on camera.
Yeah.
So what are the trends in wine? Like, what do you see people tend to gravitate towards? What's the kind of wine style?
I think, speaking locally or even just in Ontario, a lot of that small lot stuff, like the Fumé Blanc, something that's limited amount, people tend to really are attracted to that. What's new, what's fresh. If we're going to go on a broader scale, you're looking at the core varietals of Chardonnay and Riesling, Gamay, Pinot Noir, and Cab Franc. Okay.
I know you're going to say it depends. So tell us why it depends.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what's being served, depends on the type of party you're going to. If it's an outdoor party, I think that's where we touched on our whites, our nice crisp whites that'll be refreshing. Yeah. But to me personally, all wine goes with anything. Wine is so versatile, from the most conventional pairings to the rather unconventional. Everybody has different preferences in what they enjoy. So I honestly, if you bring wine to any kind of party, you've brought wine, you've already done the first step.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to enjoy it anyways.
That's right.
Okay, I'm going to go with what we used to have tastings and food pairings when we used to have everything back here in the cellars here. We would call them fun food pairings, and it'd be more like candy and wine kind of idea, or like buttered popcorn and our barrel fermented Chardonnay, because they tend to have buttery, creamy notes, and it just went really well with that. Yeah. We had a gentleman back here who would pair wasabi peas with Gewürztraminer, something sweet, something spicy, and everybody just thought they were, you know, they were, at first they were really hesitant, but you know, once you tried it, you're like, wow, that really worked. So here at C.R.E.W is made in a very fruit-forward style. I try to preserve as much of the fruit as possible. I don't doctor too much. I let the acidity speak for itself as far as natural sugars as well. Yeah, I try and keep things as pure to the grape itself. That way, you're tasting what you get from a grape, nothing too manipulated, I'd say.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent. Well, thanks for the awesome work that you do. It's reflective of the wines here. So if you get a chance to try, come out to C.R.E.W, try the wines. Fumé Blanc, the Red Sky at Night. You heard it right from the winemaker's lips. You can't go wrong. We're so fortunate that we are with the owner of C.R.E.W Winery. Bernie is here. Thanks for coming, Bernie. I appreciate your time. And
thanks for coming out, Mara. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. Where did it start?
Well, I've always had a passion for wine my entire life. It was part of our family tradition when I was growing up, and as you learn more about it, there's an awful lot of nuances and specialties you can do with the wines, and I decided to discover how to make the best.
Yeah. So when did you start C.R.E.W?
I started C.R.E.W. Well, first of all, behind you you'll see the vines, which are absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
In the year 2000, that was a soybean field, and that's when I started. We harvested the beans and started to prepare the land to make it look like this. It came down to, at the beginning, in 2005 when I opened, I had this beautiful label with Colchester Ridge Estate Winery and all kinds of nice script and everything else, and people still picked out the acronym, and I became more famous as C.R.E.W, so I had to change my brand.
Yeah, no sense fighting it, right?
Yep.
No sense fighting it.
3 years into it, I thought, well, okay, the brand is now C.R.E.W.
Yep.
Well, we've got 14 varieties.
Okay.
2 of them are blends.
Oh, okay.
And we've tried, we'll start with the blends.
Sure.
We've tried to balance the profiles between the Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Cabernet Franc.
Okay.
Typically, much like a Bordeaux blend. Mm-hmm. And we found that with the high quality grapes we have in this area, we're able to reproduce a very, very good tasting wine. And that's just for the reds.
Yeah.
The whites, the blend of Chardonnay, Gewürztraminer, and Riesling turns out to be our wine that we call Posh Cuvée. Mm-hmm. And those 2 blends work very well. In addition to that, we have the single varietals of Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Cabernet Franc, and of course the Meritage we just talked about. Mm-hmm. And then I'll take all of the select wines that we are fermenting or aging in barrels, and we will find possibly 4, maybe 5 or 6 barrels that are extremely good, and we put that aside and treat it with care for an additional year of aging, and we call that our Grand Cru.
Okay. So Grand Cru gets the extra time in the barrel, typically?
It gets extra attention. It gets extra time. It's had a lot of good luck through the process because it is extremely good.
Yeah. So if you see Grand Cru on the label, then you know that one's been babied a bit.
Absolutely.
Right.
And then in the white wines, we'll make a Chardonnay, and we'll also make a barrel fermented Chardonnay we call our flagship wine.
Okay.
And the Sauvignon Blanc, we'll make that, and a barrel fermented Sauvignon Blanc. So there's 4 varieties just in, or 4 types of wine in just 2 varieties.
Yeah.
And then we'll make a Gewürztraminer, a Riesling, and then we'll have our rosé, of course, which is just
delicious.
It's just
delicious, and the
very
color.
good.
I mean, it's not your typical rosé color. It's a little bit darker, but how fantastic!
Yeah, the
It
year,
really is.
the current year that
Yeah.
we're serving right now, the color's a little darker because the berries were extremely ripe and it was hard to control.
Yeah.
It's right out there. You'll see all of the estate grapes that we have. And so we isolate the grapes that we buy from other farmers, and we will put them in separate tanks as we're fermenting them so we can isolate the estate wines.
So that means that the wine that's in that bottle was just made from the grapes only here on this estate.
That's
Is that what you're
correct.
saying? Okay.
That's correct.
Okay, good to know.
Well, nobody will ever admit it, but you always have your favorite.
Yeah.
Okay, this time I'll reveal it to you.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Are you?
Yeah.
Just to you. And that is my Grand Cru is drinking so well at this time. It's a 2017, and I'm having a very difficult time comparing it to anything else. It is way better than anything I've ever had.
Yep. Grand Cru.
Grand Cru.
Okay.
And then I like my whites crisp and clean and all the beautiful flavors that come out of it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to choose the Sauvignon Blanc. Well, we've developed this beautiful event center, and we've unfortunately ran into the same problems the rest of the world did with our health concerns and COVID, etc., etc.
Yes.
But now we've got wonderful cooks and chefs. We've got a wonderful menu,
Yeah.
and we can pair our wines with what we think is a good suggestion,
Yeah.
although everybody can make their own decisions as well. Okay, so I'm going to be having more of a food and wine center.
That's great. And you've got the perfect spot for it too. I mean, the patio is gorgeous. Every time we come here, the patio is hopping. There's always people here. And because it's, you know, closed in, you've got the event center attached, it just seems like a natural pairing to have your food and drink.
I hope that's right.
Yeah, it's an experience. Cruise an experience. Well,
Absolutely.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Bernie.
And cheers.
Cheers to you. Cheers.
So now we get to do some fun stuff, Bernie. We get to try the wine. We've got, why don't you tell us, what are we trying?
Oh, okay. We have our 2019 Cabernet Sauvignon. And it is 100% estate grown. It's bottled on state, and we drink it here.
Yes.
Okay, my Sauvignon Blanc is an Ontario, VQA Ontario wine. It is not from my estate, but the grapes are just perfect. Now, this wine, we were taught how to make this wine from a winemaker from New Zealand. So all of these Sauvignon Blanc that is famous from New Zealand, this is a very, very close representative of top quality product.
Nice.
I always like to start with the white.
White. Okay, let's start with the white.
So, first, when you're tasting wine,
Yeah.
the very first thing you do is you look at the color.
Okay.
You have to make sure it's perfectly clear
Mm-hmm.
and has a glisten to it. It has to sparkle.
Okay. I think
And
this
what
is
it
sparkling.
does, it
Yeah?
does. It looks very, very nice and clean.
Okay.
The next thing we do is we gently rotate the glass to get the wine further up on the sides, which creates a much larger surface area.
Okay.
Then we're able to examine the nose. That's,
Smell.
oh,
Oh,
it's just phenomenal.
it smells so good.
good.
So then after that, what you get from the nose, and on the Sauvignon Blanc, you'll get a little bit of a grassy flavor. You will get a gooseberry flavor.
Yeah. It smells crisp.
Yes.
It smells crisp.
Very, very nice and clean.
Yeah.
And then we taste it. We expect to taste exactly what we smell. It doesn't get any better than that.
No. Yum.
And next on our list, we have our 2019 Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yeah.
And it, once again, we take a look at it to see if there's any impurities. Now, this is extremely dark and it's almost impossible to see through it. So when we inspect it, we have to look close to the edge where the wine is a little bit thinner, and we'll get that beautiful ruby color. Once again, swirl it around.
What does the swirling do?
It increases the surface area,
Okay.
so that when you take the nose, you've got the evaporation of a much larger area than just the flat surface.
Okay, because I never understood that. I see people do it, but I didn't know exactly why. Oh, that smells
And then
nice.
you take your sip and you say, what a wonderful wine this is too. This is, once again, completely grown on our estate, bottled on our estate, and consumed on our estate.
Cheers to that. Cheers.
My favorite wine here is the Sauvignon Blanc. I love how light and crisp it is and easy drinking.
My favorite wine here is the Gewurz. My favorite wine is definitely our estate from Merlot.
So my favorite wine is the flagship Chardonnay because it's a good example of our grapes that we grow here. It's aged in French oak for 9 months and it's buttery, creamy, and beautiful, and it's my favorite.
So we spent the afternoon at C.R.E.W. We had a chance to speak to the winemaker. We had a chance to speak to the owner, who speak with such passion about the wines and the things that they do here. If you haven't had a chance to check out C.R.E.W., their wines are fabulous. The patio is amazing. It is an experience that you really don't want to miss. So if you are in Southwestern Ontario, you're looking for something to do, come and give C.R.E.W. a try.